Pandemic job numbers keep getting worse in Windsor with a soaring unemployment rate. But is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Plus,
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
this 6-year-old black girl had hundreds chanting in Windsor and big leadership plans to one day be prime minister. We hear from Rhea and her mother tonight. Really feeling that sun today. Hit 30 degrees today. That was the high. 34 with the humidex. Thunderstorms could break some of that heat tonight. Nick Sirkovich with the full details in his forecast later on in our show. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Ensing. Worst in the country. Worst in almost 2 decades. The COVID-19 pandemic has hit Windsor's job market hard. And today, the latest unemployment figures tell the story. Here it is, 16.7% in May. That's up from 12.9% in April. It's the highest among major Canadian cities. Canada's national jobless rate also rising to 13.7%. And even though the numbers look bleak, business and political leaders in our area say that there is some hope. Today, an economic task force aimed at recovering the economy from the pandemic talked about plans going forward. Dale Molnar joins us now, more with that. Dale, what are the plans to actually get us on that road to recovery?
Well, Chris, the task force is made up of business, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, and those involved in economic development. And even though things are gloomy now, the unemployment figures are based on what was happening in March, April, and May. And now things are starting to slowly turn around.
It's been very stressful and just if I'm being honest, just very hopeless.
That's how Nick Wojenik describes the last 5 months he's been unemployed. And like thousands in our area, finding a job has been difficult during the pandemic. According to Workforce Windsor Essex, much of the job loss has been in the tourism and hospitality sector, as well as automotive. The members of the COVID-19 Economic Task Force outlined several steps they are taking to bring back the local economy. The CEO of Tourism Windsor Essex Pelee Island says 30% of tourism comes from the U.S., but Gordon Orr says they are embarking on a plan to draw more tourism from this side of the border.
So we're not looking at Detroit and Michigan and Ohio as being our next phase at all. We're looking at it being Windsor Essex residents. We're then looking to move it into southwestern Ontario, and then we're going to go to the GTA, and then at the appropriate time, we go into the U.S. But make no mistake, we're not going to market this region to visitors from anywhere, including Windsor Essex, until our industry is open.
Twepi and the Chamber of Commerce also launched a Shop Local campaign today to get people to patronize local establishments. When it comes to manufacturing, the trucking industry saw a major jump in cross-border trips since last month. FCA is once again back at work, which has brought back feeder plants. And once June figures are factored in, the monthly job numbers should look better next month.
It will take time for us to come out of this as well, even though some of the recovery could be happening right now.
The manufacturing sector has been planning for the loss of the third shift at the Windsor Assembly Plant for several months, but it will still have an impact.
I understand this week that there's finally been an offer from the company for bio packages. So we're monitoring that closely, but it's certainly going to impact the employment numbers in the short term. But with the colleagues on the line here today, we certainly hope to keep helping our companies who are here to expand.
Nick Wojenik was one of several people lined up for food today, but things are looking up for him. He starts a new job on Monday. Now, another thing that helps mitigate the job loss is that there are a number of companies and businesses hiring, such as Loblaws, Shoppers Drug Mart, and the greenhouse industry, and the list goes on. And Workforce Windsor Essex has also been able to match up 148 unemployed people with employers offering work in essential services. And there are 536 jobs available in that sector alone. Chris?
Now, Dale, any idea on how many jobs will be lost permanently as a result of this shutdown?
Well, Chris, no one could really answer that, but obviously there will be some businesses that won't return. But there are businesses that are ramping up to produce things for the COVID crisis, like the N95 masks, which we reported on yesterday. And the mayor believes, however, we will see economic recovery eventually.
I am still very, very optimistic about the future in this region and what I see happening. And I look at the COVID situation as a reason for us to have a collective pause on the success that we were seeing. But once we get past this hump into the new normal, whatever that looks like, I believe that this community is resilient enough, and the people here are resilient enough to pick up the bootstraps and to continue on the way we were going and pivot and adjust and adapt as necessary. I think this community, this entire region, has a great future with many of the pieces we're putting in place and have done and are looking to do.
Now, when I spoke to Justin Falconer at Workforce Windsor Essex, he said that according to a survey they did recently, only 4% of the respondents to the survey believe they were permanently unemployed. And Falconer also believes that the income supplement plan the federal government has initiated may also be deterring some people from looking for work. And he says when that goes away, the unemployment figures may decrease. Chris?
Thanks for this, Dale. CBC's Dale Molnar looking at the job numbers today. The federal government announced a one-time $600 payment to help people with disabilities offset higher costs during the pandemic. But with the economy now showing signs of reopening, just about every corner of society is concerned about adjusting to the new reality. The Prime Minister says that he and the premiers have been talking about a nationwide safe restart plan to cover the next 6 to 8 months.
The federal government is ready to contribute $14 billion more for the things that all Canadians need.
Things like personal protective equipment for healthcare facilities and other workplaces, childcare support so parents can return to work, and establishing a paid sick leave program for all workers, assisting the provinces in improving long-term care and helping them maintain core services, including public transit systems, part of what he said today. Trudeau says federal assistance would come as a targeted transfer to ensure national standards for all Canadians. Premier Doug Ford says no matter how the money's divided up, it's not enough for Ontario. Workers at Windsor Regional Hospital walked off the job briefly today. They held rallies at both hospital campuses to demand that the provincial government change the way that it's handing out pandemic pay. About a quarter of the hospital's 4,000 workers are not eligible for the extra pay that's meant for frontline workers during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some workers get it, others don't. Those at the rallies today were asking for a more equal system. Jacob Barker has the story.
Workers poured out of Windsor Regional Hospital today to protest what they're calling unequal pay, and they were holding signs that said things like "Frontline proud" and "Together we stand strong." And it wasn't just the workers that weren't receiving the pandemic pay that were out to walk. It was also those that are receiving it. Even hospital administration said that they are fully supporting the workers.
We're all exposed to it. Each and every one of us that come into this building every single day to work. That's an inequity. That's not equal. And they're just as important as the next person. We're all in this together. There's supposed to be unity here, not exclusion.
It's ridiculous that they're having a distinguished difference between helping workers, and we're here to say support for our frontline workers. As a PSW, I know that everybody that's participating to help keep our community safe deserves the support.
This is a failure on the part of the Ford government to recognize all of the frontline workers who are working during this pandemic to make sure that we all stay safe and healthy. For him to be picking who is worthy and who he deems unworthy is unfair.
Every single person that works in this organization, whether they're directly involved in patient care face-to-face or not, is critically important. Otherwise, if you don't have the person who's cleaning the rooms to get rid of the virus, to clear it out for the next person to come in, things don't run.
I walk into rooms, I'm in these rooms, physical contact, direct contact with these patients, sometimes for up for a half hour at a time. I've been living in a hotel for the last 10 weeks because I cannot take the chance of bringing this home to my family. It just feels that, was it really worth it? Did I put my family through all of this for nothing? That's how it feels, that we're not valued and we're unimportant.
The hospital administration has made its concerns known before this. It did send a letter to the provincial government in May. It says that this type of pay structure is a divisive thing and it can cause problems with morale among the staff. Everybody that took part in today's walk hopes that it does force the government to change course and make things equal for everybody. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
Now, we did ask Premier Ford's office to respond to the workers' concerns this afternoon. It said that the Premier wishes the province could provide the pay for every single worker, but the funding it gets from the federal government is limited, and it's not able to expand the program beyond the 375,000 employees that already get it. Another migrant worker is in hospital because of COVID-19, and the head of Windsor Regional Hospital says that he's not doing well. Now, the migrant worker is 24 years old, currently in critical care. He's one of at least 6 migrant workers that have been sent to a hospital this week after testing positive for the coronavirus. Erie Shores Healthcare says that there's around 130 people who are migrant workers that have COVID-19 in Windsor, Essex. The health unit's medical officer of health today said that they got the virus after arriving in Canada.
There is, yes, this possibility then when we're talking about the number of cases that are increasing in these settings is just because of the way that these individuals live, these settings and these workplaces operate. But the introduction of these cases are still from the community. So we do not want to undermine the importance of these cases that are originating in the community and then going into these settings, which is causing much more big problem.
Now, we're going to show you the scene in Ottawa just a few hours ago. Thousands gathering at an anti-racism rally when it happened. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made a surprise appearance along with some of his cabinet ministers, joining a crowd in front of Parliament. At one point, he took a knee, a symbol of anger at racial injustice. Recently, this has become a sign of support for the ongoing protests. The crowd paid their respects to George Floyd by maintaining silence for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That's the amount of time that Floyd, a black man, was pinned down by a white police officer while gasping for air in Minneapolis. This is one of many demonstrations that are taking place around the world against racism and police brutality. Toronto's chief of police took a knee in solidarity with demonstrators ahead of the anti-racism march that went through the Toronto downtown court today.
Take a knee! Take a knee! Take a knee! Show we're about peace! Take a knee! Take a knee! Take a knee!
Mark Saunders says Toronto police fully support peaceful protests. Yesterday, he acknowledged the need for working with the city's black community to help build public trust in police. Locally, a 6-year-old girl was handed a megaphone at the March for Justice, that rally that happened at Windsor on Sunday. She was surrounded by hundreds of people, and she led them in a chant, Black Lives Matter. I met Rhea and her mom this morning to hear about what this moment is like for black families with young kids.
Let's meet Rhea Bernard. At 6 years old, she made a mark at Sunday's March for Justice in Windsor, her voice amplified by a megaphone.
And what did you try to tell them?
Black Lives Matter.
Do you think people listen to you?
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Say his name! George Floyd! Say his name! George Floyd!
Hundreds chanted with her. Thousands watched online. Photographer John Chan took a photo in the moments after and calls it the most important image he shot in 20 years. Kiana Porter, Rhea's mom, held her daughter tight. They've been to protests together before, calling it part of Rhea's education.
What are some of the things that you've learned from what when you have conversations?
Some things that I learned is to stand up for myself.
She's been at protests and rallies before then.
Yes, at the climate change one. That was her first one. And she actually was the one who came to me and was like, we have to do better for the world. So when she started saying that, and she wouldn't eat anything that I sent that wasn't in like a reusable container, so she really opened my eyes. So after that, I was like, I have to get her involved. And because she's so vocal about a lot of things and so confident, I was like, now's the time. Like, this is the perfect time and everything that's going on. Without her being in school and stuff and we're home so much, I'm like, I'm gonna take this time to invest in teaching her about what's going on in the world and having her get involved and letting her know that she can help make a change.
And moments in movements like the one on Sunday, Rhea says it makes her happy.
And when you saw everybody chanting the same thing as you, what was going through your brain and your heart?
It was just making me feel happy and excited and proud of myself.
What about everybody else? How did you feel about everybody else?
I felt proud of them and
what about all the protests that I showed you around the whole world?
Makes me feel a little happy.
And when kids like you talk, when kids like you grab the megaphone, what do you want adults to start thinking?
I would want them to start thinking of racism and George Floyd. So one time my mom told me our family story, and that's when I knew that I had to do better.
Can you tell him a little? Do you know a little bit of our family story?
A little.
So our great-grandfather, he traveled all the way from the south, and he was a slave.
Yeah.
And he traveled all the way, and he made it here to freedom.
And his family tree, rooted in Windsor, Essex, now blossoms a passionate 6-year-old, able to lead hundreds for a moment.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
And aiming to inspire millions as future prime minister.
I just think that I should be prime minister because, I want to change the world.
It's a powerful young lady there. A Windsor author has been awarded this year's Stephen Laycock Memorial Medal. Heidi Jacobs won Canada's highest honor for literary humor for her novel Molly of the Mall, literary lass and purveyor of fine footwear. CBC caught up with Jacobs shortly after the announcement was made earlier today.
I'm, as you can tell, sort of speechless about it. It's really quite stunning to me. I dedicated it to my mom, who's no longer with us, so it's a very emotional kind of thing, and I'm sure she'd be really, really thrilled. So I'm very happy for her because she believed in this book from the first sentences. So that was really great. And then the other two works were so phenomenal. I thought I didn't have a chance up against them because they're so good, and I think everyone should read them.
A live look outside at the riverfront there. Those high lake levels certainly causing problems for people living along the waterfront. But Nick Serkovich has our forecast coming up and a look at what we can expect this weekend. And joining us now for a live look at the weather is Nick Cerkovich. Nick, we were just talking about stuff we've been doing during this pandemic to try and keep our mind away from it. I've got a brand new pair of running shoes, but I don't think that it's been cool enough to kind of test them out. You got a bike too, right?
Yeah, well, my wife and I got bikes because our little guy, he's almost 4 years old, inspired us to do it. You know, we got him on this balance bike about, what would it be, 2 months ago, which totally flips around the way that I learned to ride, which was on a trike first. And he took off on that, and like 3 weeks ago, I got him a bike and no training wheels. So basically, he puts me and all of our friends to shame because we're like, I remember being old enough to be on training wheels and being afraid to not be on them. And he was just, he'll never remember training wheels. Anyway, cool stuff. Not the weather though. Actually, it's been really hot across southern Ontario. We've had this influx of hot, humid air that's moved through the region, and that actually triggered off some thunderstorms across the area. And we're gonna get to that in just a second. Here's a look at daytime highs from today. 31 degrees in Windsor, 28 as you move toward London. Right now we're sitting at temperatures around 26 degrees. It's come off a bit as we head toward the evening hours, but really a beautiful day out there today. It has come with a fair bit of humidity. Right now the humidex sitting at 33. This is all going to change though tonight as a cold front moves through, and that's triggering off some thunderstorms around the region. And Windsor's actually gotten away without seeing it so far. We've had a cluster of thunderstorms just move to the south of Leamington. We've also got more out toward the east, London, Kitchener, Waterloo. Generally, we haven't seen much in this area, although I wouldn't totally rule out a spotty shower through the next few hours. We're seeing some cells possibly popping up, but this is going to be pretty isolated in nature through tonight. This is along a cold front that's going to push through, and that's going to bring in with it some cooler weather, but also drier weather as well as we head into the weekend. Lots of sunshine for tomorrow morning, same story into tomorrow afternoon, and then in fact, all the way through Sunday as well, we've got lots in the way of sunshine under high pressure, and this is going to be coming with generally seasonal temperatures, or if maybe a hair below seasonal. When I say that, maybe a degree below seasonal. Tonight's still pretty mild, 16 degrees as we move through the overnight, clearing sky cover if you don't already have it. Again, the risk for a few spotty showers this evening, if we see them, they're going to be heavy in nature, but short-lived. By tomorrow, sunshine, 25 degrees across the board. 24 is the average, so we're sitting right about the average. It'll drop off a little bit on Sunday at 24 degrees as well. But then things start to change again for next week. Now, first thing to note in the long-range forecast, great weekend. The second thing to note is lots in the way of sunshine. Even this is going to be a mix of sun and cloud. Here we've got temperatures that are up around the 30s there. And I should mention the humidex is going to climb. By Tuesday, Wednesday, we're looking at humidex values again in the mid to high 30s.
Oh, uncomfortable,
like
but
summer. Yeah.
at least we know it's coming. At least
Maybe
we
that's
know
not
that it's
when
on
you
the way.
should start running. Perhaps start running back here where it's a little bit.
That's
cool.
fair. Oh,
Yeah.
that's earlier, actually. I was hoping we could push it back a little further if
look
we
at
could.
you. Yeah, trying to get out of this already.
Maybe
eh?
I'm a fall runner. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what I am. Thanks for this, Nick. Have a good
Yeah, you
weekend. Now, coming up, we're going to have a story about protective gear and what its position it's put it in for dental hygienists here in Ontario. Right now, there's a major rift in Ontario's dental industry. Some clinic owners are trying to reopen, but many dental hygienists are raising concerns about safety protocols and access to protective gear. Lauren Pelly reports.
So this is one of the concerns here, the open concept operatory.
Dental hygienist Irene Iancu owns this brand new clinic in the Upper Beaches. It was slated to open months ago, but the pandemic derailed her plans. Instead, Iancu donated much of her personal protective equipment to frontline workers fighting the virus.
And this is all I have left. I have probably about 6 or 7 pairs of gloves and half a box of level 3 masks.
Even if she can buy more gear, Iancu is among those concerned about conflicting PPE guidelines for dental staff. The new protocols come from 2 regulatory bodies, one for dentists and one for dental hygienists. The guidelines allow dentists to treat patients with urgent issues, even if they screen positive for COVID-19. But the guidelines for hygienists say those patients should not be allowed at clinics. When it comes to wearing PPE, the dental college guidelines don't mandate N95 respirators for all procedures that produce aerosol droplets. The hygienist guidelines do. Some warn those droplets could be carrying the potentially deadly virus, and across the province, hygienists are ringing alarms.
I don't understand why anything less than an N95 would be recommended. It may put us more at risk and the patient.
The Royal College of Dental Surgeons of Ontario told CBC News its guidelines reflect the recommendations of Public Health Ontario. But this infectious disease expert says hygienist concerns are valid.
COVID is a highly infectious virus. When you're doing aerosol generating procedures, you're likely to have the virus become airborne. And really, no one should be doing any procedure that could be generating viruses in the air without an N95.
Amid the debate, Iancu says her biggest concern when she finally opens is just keeping people safe.
Generally speaking, we should be treating everyone as if they're infected, and that helps us not only protect ourselves, but protect our clients and patients and their families when they go home.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
6:29 p.m. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news at any time, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for CBC Windsor in any of those platforms. Power and Politics is up next. Thanks for watching, and make sure you have yourself a great and safe weekend.